From box to flight. This guide provides a systematic, hands-on process for taking a modern FPV drone from its initial unboxing to a successful first flight. We will cover the essential hardware, the critical software configuration steps, and the fundamental flight principles. The objective is to provide a clear, practical framework for setting up and flying your first FPV drone. Your basic gear explained. An FPV system consists of three primary hardware components: the drone, the radio controller, and the FPV goggles. The performance of the entire system depends on these three components being correctly identified and physically inspected before software setup. We will begin by examining the key functional parts of each device. What are the essential parts of this Beta FPV drone? I need to know. Forget the complex diagrams. Think of it as a creature. The frame is its skeleton. The motors and propellers are its wings. And this battery connector is the mouth you use to feed it energy. Everything else is just the nervous system we'll get to later, but for now, just know how to hold it and how to feed it. How do I handle this Radio Master controller for the first time? This isn't just a remote. It's an extension of your own hands. The left stick is your altitude and rotation, like walking forwards and turning your head. The right stick is your direction, like leaning your body left or right to steer a skateboard. What am I supposed to see and do with these FPV goggles? Putting on these goggles for the first time is like opening your eyes in a whole new reality. You'll see a live feed from the drone's camera, which might be static at first, but you'll use a button on the goggles to scan for the correct video channel, just like tuning an old radio. Once you find it, the world of your drone will rush in to fill your vision. The first handshake. The first critical step in the setup process is establishing a persistent, unique radio link between the controller and the drone. This procedure, known as binding, ensures the drone only responds to commands from your specific controller. We will now walk through the binding process for the Express LRS protocol. What's the big idea behind binding the radio to the drone? Think of it like introducing a dog to its new owner for the first time. The binding process is that moment of introduction where the drone learns the unique scent, the unique digital signature of your specific controller. After this, it will only listen to your commands and ignore all others. How do I set my unique binding phrase on the Radio Master controller? This is like setting a new, uncrackable password for your personal Wi-Fi network. You'll navigate the menu on your Radio Master controller to the Express LRS page, invent a unique, memorable phrase, and type it into the binding phrase field. This phrase is now the secret key that only you and your drone will share. How do I get that same binding phrase onto my Beta FPV drone? Now you must teach the drone the secret password you just created. You connect the drone to your computer, open a program called the Express LRS Configurator, and type in the exact same binding phrase you set on your controller. It's like giving your friend the password to your Wi-Fi. Now they're both on the same secure network. What is the most common reason the drone and radio won't connect after this step? The drone and radio are like two people trying to meet in a crowded room. They need to be on the same frequency. The most common failure is a simple typo in the binding phrase between the radio and the drone's configuration. Even one character off, and they will be forever strangers, shouting on different frequencies. Essential software setup. After binding the hardware, the next phase is configuring the drone's flight controller firmware using the Betaflight configurator software. This section will cover the minimum required settings changes for a safe initial flight. We will focus on motor direction, receiver setup, and assigning essential flight modes. What is Betaflight and why do I need it? Betaflight is not some scary hacker software. It's the drone's personality card. It's a simple visual menu where you tell the drone how you want it to behave, how sensitive it should be, and what its safety features are. Think of it as the settings screen on a new phone, where you customize it to your own liking. Which direction should my propellers spin? The propellers are the drone's wings, and they must push air down to create lift. In the Betaflight software, there's a diagram showing which way each motor should spin, typically two clockwise and two counterclockwise. You must ensure your physical propellers are installed to match this spin, with the raised edge leading the rotation. Otherwise, the drone will try to fly into the ground. How do I check that my controller sticks are moving the right way in the software? This is a crucial step, like looking in a mirror to make sure your reflection does what you do. In the Receiver tab of Betaflight, you'll see a 3D model of your drone that should perfectly mimic the movements of your controller sticks. If you push the right stick left, the model must roll left, ensuring the drone understands your commands before it ever leaves the ground. What do I do if my drone preview rolls left when I push the stick right? This is a simple case of crossed wires in the drone's brain, but the fix is trivial. You simply go into your Radio Master's Model Setup menu and find the Outputs page. There, you just select the channel that's moving the wrong way, for instance, the roll channel, and select Invert. It's like flipping a switch to correct the signal. How do I assign a switch to arm the drone? The arm switch is the ignition key for your drone, the final barrier between being a safe object and a flying machine. In the Modes tab, you assign one of your controller's physical switches to the arm range. When you flip that switch, and only when you flip it, are the motors allowed to spin. What is turtle mode and how do I set it up? Turtle mode is the drone's magical ability to right itself after a crash, a true lifesaver. You assign another switch in the Modes tab to flip over after crash. If your drone lands upside down, you flip this switch and the motors will spin in a way that flips the drone back onto its feet, ready for takeoff. Your first flight, simulator first. Before attempting a real flight, it is critical to develop muscle memory in a risk-free environment. An FPV simulator allows you to connect your actual radio controller to a computer to practice the physics of flight. This step is essential for minimizing the risk of crashing your physical drone. Why must I practice in a simulator before my first real flight? Flying a real drone is like trying to ride a unicycle on a tightrope while juggling. A flight simulator removes the tightrope, the unicycle, and the ground, letting you practice the core act of juggling in perfect safety. It's where your hands learn the language of flight before you ever speak it out loud. What is the one skill I need to master in the simulator above all others? Forget about flying in circles or doing tricks. The single most important skill is the stable hover. You must train your thumb on the throttle stick to hold the drone at a perfectly constant altitude, fighting gravity with tiny, precise movements. Mastering this is mastering the very foundation of FPV flight. How do I practice basic movement in the simulator? Imagine a large, empty parking lot in your mind. Your first exercise is to use the right stick to gently guide the drone from one parking space to the next, forward, backward, left, and right, all while keeping your altitude perfectly steady with the left stick. This teaches your hands how to separate altitude control from directional control. Your first real flight. With simulator practice complete, we now proceed to the first real-world flight. This section outlines a pre-flight checklist and a methodical process for a safe takeoff, hover, and landing. Adhering to this sequence is critical for risk mitigation. What is the ultimate safety check I must perform before every single flight? This is the pilot's final exam before every single flight, the one you must never skip. With the propellers off, you arm the drone, increase the throttle slightly so the motors are spinning, and then turn your radio controller completely off. The motors must stop instantly. If they don't, you have a dangerous fail-safe issue that must be fixed. How do I perform my very first takeoff without crashing? Take a deep breath, place the drone on flat ground, and stand back. You will flip the arm switch, and the propellers will begin to spin slowly. Then, with incredible gentleness, you will raise the throttle stick just until the drone feels light and lifts into a stable 1 meter hover, no higher. What is the most likely reason my drone flips over instantly on takeoff? This is the infamous flip of death, and it's almost always a pilot's first and most violent crash. The cause is beautifully simple. You have put the wrong propellers on the wrong motors, like trying to screw a bolt in the wrong direction. The drone tries to fly, but with its wings on backward, it can only flip over in a rage. How do I practice basic control in the air? Imagine a large, invisible box in the air in front of you. Your goal is to fly the drone along the edges of this box, a simple square pattern, keeping the drone's tail, its rear end, pointed towards you at all times. This builds the fundamental muscle memory for orientation and control. How do I land the drone safely and gently? Landing is not a controlled crash. It's a process of gently returning to the earth. You will slowly, and I mean very slowly, lower the throttle stick until the drone begins to descend. As it nears the ground, you will ease off even more, letting it settle with the softness of a falling leaf, and then you will disarm. Solving your first problems. After the first flight, you will inevitably encounter common beginner issues. This section provides a structured troubleshooting guide for the most frequent problems. Diagnosing these issues is a core skill for any FPV pilot. Why does my drone drift in one direction when it's supposed to be still? The drone's accelerometer is its inner ear. It's what gives it a sense of balance. If it drifts, it's because its sense of what is level is wrong, like a person feeling dizzy. You fix this by placing the drone on a perfectly flat surface and pressing the calibrate accelerometer button in beta flight, giving it a new, true sense of balance. What should I do if I lose the video signal in my goggles? The moment your video disappears, you must fight the instinct to panic and immediately take your thumb off the throttle. Do not disarm the drone, as you will lose all control. Instead, keep flying in the last known direction or try to gain altitude, as video signal is often better higher up, and hope the signal returns. How do I find my drone if I crash it far away? A crashed drone in a field is like a needle in a haystack, but you have two powerful magnets to find it. First, you can watch the RSSI or signal strength value in your goggles as you walk around. As the number gets higher, you're getting warmer. If that fails, you can activate the drone's buzzer, a loud alarm that will scream for you to come find it. Can you show how to trigger the drone's buzzer from the radio controller? This is your drone's panic button. It's call for help. In the Modes tab of Beta Flight, you will assign another one of your radio's switches to the beeper mode. Now, when you crash and can't see the drone, you simply flip this switch and a loud alarm will guide you directly to its location. Understanding key terms. To operate your drone effectively, you need to understand the vocabulary used to describe its behavior and systems. This section will provide practical, non-theoretical definitions for a few essential FPV terms. This is the minimum effective vocabulary for a new pilot. What is the practical difference between angle mode and acro mode? Angle mode is like having a helpful co-pilot who keeps the drone level for you. It's impossible to flip over. Acro mode is when you tell that co-pilot to leave the cockpit. You now have complete 360-degree control, with no safety nets but your own skill. What does the term PID controller mean for me as a beginner? The PID controller is the drone's subconscious mind, the part that handles the thousands of microcorrections every second to keep it stable. As a beginner, you should treat it as a black box that just works. Advanced tuning is a deep rabbit hole that is best avoided until you are a very confident pilot. What is an OSD and what should I put on it? The OSD is your cockpit's dashboard, displaying critical flight information directly on your video feed. For a beginner, there are only three essential pieces of information you need: the battery voltage so you know when to land, the flight time, and your RSSI signal strength. Everything else is just a distraction at this stage. How do I change what I see on my screen? This is one of the most satisfying parts of the setup process. In the OSD tab of Betaflight, you are presented with a screen that represents your goggle view. You can simply click on elements like battery voltage or flight time and drag them to any position on the screen you like, customizing your view completely. What's next? Having completed a successful first flight, it is time to define a clear path for skill development. This final section will outline the next concrete skills a new pilot should focus on. This provides a structured approach to moving beyond basic hovering. What is the very next skill I should learn after I can hover and fly gently? Your next great challenge is to master forward flight without gaining or losing altitude. You must learn to coordinate your throttle stick with your pitch stick, so that as you push forward to gain speed, you also add a tiny bit of throttle to maintain your height. It's a delicate dance that separates the beginners from the intermediate pilots. How do I know when I'm ready to try acro mode? You are ready for acro mode on the day you get angry at angle mode. It's the moment you try to do a sharp turn or a dive and you feel the drone fighting you, limiting your angle and your freedom. That frustration is the sign that you have outgrown your training wheels and are ready to ride free. What is the best way to practice acro mode for the first time? You must return to the place where failure is free, the simulator. Practicing aero mode for the first time in the real world is a recipe for a broken drone. The simulator is your personal playground where you can attempt your first flips and rolls 1,000 times without ever paying for a mistake. How can I start learning to do simple rolls and flips? Find a huge, open field with no people or obstacles and fly your drone up high, giving yourself plenty of altitude for mistakes. From there, you will give a quick, sharp push on the roll or pitch stick and then immediately return it to the center. The drone will rotate, and for a terrifying, exhilarating moment, you will be a true acrobatic pilot.